Hey Chris, how you going?
Travis, it's good to be here. Good to be here with you.
Excellent. Well, thanks so much for carving out a bit of your day to be on the Bucket List Life podcast here, mate. You're a very, very busy man in normal circumstances. And for those that don't know you, Chris held a famous for useful belief, which we're going to get into. But before we do that, one question that I ask every guest on the Bucket List Life podcast is because, you travel probably more than most human beings in Australia. When you come into Australia or you leave to go into another country, you're entering another country, and we have the incoming passenger card, what do you put on your incoming passenger card as your employment, as your work, as a
I
describer?
put speaker down, Travis. I put speaker down. So I do. I put that's what I do. And I've been asked a lot of different questions over the years about what that means. And I was famously, I was going to New Zealand one time, and I had speaker written out on my card, and I was going to New Zealand. This big Maori guy takes a look at it, and he's like, speaker. He goes, "What are you? Tiny Robbins." And of course, I stand 5'8". So,
really? That's a classic.
Tiny Robbins. I was like,
Tiny
"Come on,
Robbins.
man! Come on!"
What do you? And so when someone asks, "Okay, I'm a speaker, so what do you speak about?" is the next question. How do you answer that?
Look, I usually come up with my hook, which is I talk about how positive thinking doesn't work, and depending on the sort of conversation I want to get into at the time, and my whole thing is
how tired you are.
Yeah, that's right. Sometimes I just tell people that I'm that I'm a urologist or something, and then I can just get out of it. Nobody wants to talk to me at all about anything. So, but look, I think, in terms of just talking about how positive thinking doesn't work, and I talk about how useful works, and I don't teach positive thinking, and I don't teach negative thinking. I teach useful thinking, and really moving away from the emotional side and really getting into the practical side. So, it is fun. Last year I did 170 some presentations, and as you say, I did run 159 airplanes. I think we counted them up, and
wow.
So it's pretty incredible to contrast that with, this year and what's happening, what's going on. But this is reality. So what's going to be my useful thoughts about it? What's going to be my useful beliefs about it?
Yeah, we'll get into that in a second. And like, what's so 170 odd on presentations per year. What is what's your best ever presentation you've given? Like the best audience, the best venue. Can you remember that time where it's just you've fully got it dialed in? I know that you are amazing, mate, and I must say that from speaker to speaker, you are amazing. Your energy is just next level. Everyone loves you. Can you think of one that like speaking bucket list, let's say, that you ticked off and you went, yes?
There's been a couple, and I think I might as well just talk about the one you were at last year. I think at speaking in front of my peers at the Professional Speakers Association conference, which was a standing ovation, and it was an amazing experience. That was a lot of fun. I spoke at $1 Million Roundtable, both for their elite group in Hawaii last year, and I also spoke at the big international conference in Sydney, which was 10,000. Well, that was an incredible experience last year to look at 10,000 people. That was amazing, and they were fun, bigger examples, but there's certainly examples as well of intimate groups where we've had somebody in the groups made a huge stride in their life, and because of that they changed who they were. So that's pretty cool too.
Yeah, unreal. And let's go to the opposite one. Where have you what's we've all got them. You knew I was gonna. There's always a good then a not so good. What's a nightmare story that you've got as a speaker? Because we've all got them, and this is actually one of the things that we shared at this year's PSA conference, Professional Speakers Australia conference. There was good, the bad, and the ugly, and we went through the room, and went through our ugly one first. And oh
Yeah.
my God, there was some horrible, like some of our peers that have got some absolutely horrible, like cry in the corner, fetal position kind of stuff through to the good ones. I bet you've got some absolute doozies as well.
I got two that spring to mind. One,
still getting therapy around it.
Company shall remain nameless. I had one which was done with an electronics company who shall remain nameless. I rocked up, and I think that it was a nighttime gig, and they'd started drinking at about 10 o'clock in the morning.
Oh no!
And they didn't even know I was coming, and they were like, I literally got thrown, into this situation where they were off their tree, and that was rough because I was getting heckled bad. But I'll never forget that one. And the other one, the one was at the Ivy in Sydney, and it was also a nighttime gig, and they literally asked me to speak in the middle of a cocktail party, and there was just no hope. I mean, it was hundreds of people that were just drinking and nobody wanting to listen. So neither one of those worked out very well. It's and I think anytime you get embarrassed like that, it's but it's an interesting job, isn't it, Travis? I mean, I think anytime you get a chance to speak to people and you rock up and you're anxious, and every day is nerve-wracking. And people think just because you've done it for a long time, it means it doesn't, affect you, but it does. It always affects you. And I think, it's an interesting moment. And I think what I used to do when I'd have a tough audience is I'd try to fire up with a little bit of ego and maybe even a little bit of, I'll show these guys, and I've really shifted away from that. And I think where I'm at right now is just, I always just think to myself, I'm feeling vulnerable right now, and I'm sure somebody in the audience is feeling vulnerable as well. And I'm going to get up there and do my thing and drive from the heart, and driving from the heart, that's the way to go. And I think that helps with nerves all the time, is if, moving that ego to the side and trying to, really drive from that place.
And how do you keep it fresh? Because it's you put so much energy into your and I call it edutainment, mate. Like you go next level and you're running around like using the whole stage, and your storytelling is a performance, and that's what you're known for as well, which is so memorable, and it anchors so much in the audience's mind, and the ripple effect is amazing. How do you keep it fresh for yourself?
It's interesting. I think, I liken what we do to what like a musician does or what a comic does. And, a musician or a comic are going to play the same song, or, they're going to do the same show many, many, many times. And I guess people always ask you that question about how do you keep it fresh? But it's not the content necessarily. It's the crowd. It's the audience. Because every environment's different.
Yeah.
Because you're out there trying to win them over, and you're trying to help people, and every day is a different challenge. So for me, it's never been a case of I got certain parts of my show which are I've been doing for years, and there'd be parts of it that are it's always adapting. But I probably am a little different than most speakers in that I've got a whole series of sort of 10 to 15 minute blocks, depending, which I can interchange. So I've probably got about 20. Which right. Depending on what we're doing, and I can adapt those pieces. So and a couple of those pieces, I go all the way back to 15 years ago, 18 years ago when I started this, I guess. And I've been so it is interesting. I've done them hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times, but it's always exciting. It's always different, and the comedy gets better, and the humor gets better, and the timing gets better. And so I don't think it is ever that I get sick of doing the content. Certain bits have dropped out. Obviously, I'm like, nah, that's not relevant. And obviously, I was saying, doing podcasts today. Here we are in the middle of this COVID-19, and talking today on a podcast, something could be quite different 48 hours from now than it is today, and certainly could be very different 3 months from now. So, prefacing that, we always have to be adapting the content to the times. And, I think right now with the virtual stuff that I'm doing, it's very much about adapting to, struggle and what people are going through.
Yeah. And like your content is so relevant, and how, like, we'll get onto that in a second, because the useful belief is really, we've got to all have a useful belief around around
Yeah.
this. How have you gone, doing virtual presentations when you give so much energy on the stage and you've got this whole platform to perform on? Are you like a cage monkey in the, this online world, or what?
I'm adapting. I think the first couple that I did, I probably wasn't as comfortable with it. And, it helps me to be able to see people. I think when you can see the response, and I think it was last Monday, I did an international conference, which was like 1,000 participants. And I turned around and did a Western Suburbs real estate sales meeting in the afternoon for 6 people. And
nice.
To be able to have the ability to do that's pretty cool. And I suppose just, where I'm coming from right now, I'm looking at it just going, all right, you may not be able to move the same way, but you can bring intensity, and you can change, you can do those things, and you can create excitement about what's happening, which I think not every speaker probably has the ability to do. Some people are probably going to be better at this virtual thing than others. And, but I certainly feel pretty excited about the feedback we've gotten so far.
Mate, author of 4 books, and I guess the most famous one that you're known for is Useful Belief. Yeah. Give me a real brief description of what that concept, what that piece of content is all about for people, and how have people adapted to the useful belief concept?
Cool. It definitely has been the stick use concept, I think, that I've come up with, and it's been the thing that I've most known for. And I think, the idea is we have a reality. Everybody has a reality every day. And really 2 things will stop us at any given time: focusing on things we can't control, or focusing on things we will not change. So if you can't control it and won't change it, well, then you might as well come up with a useful belief about it. And in simplest terms, again, trying to be positive. Positive doesn't work. You wake up in the morning and go, I'm trying to be positive. By 10 o'clock, when something bad happens, you can't sustain that level of positivity. That studies show you actually feel worse about yourself than when you started. And it's not positive thinking. It's not negative thinking. It's useful thinking and useful belief about the world. So people have loved it because, and it's, again, we talk about the best, worst, the good, bad, and the ugly, if you will. I mean, the emails that I've gotten over the years have been staggering. I mean, from successful people who go, Chris, I was unhappy in my personal life, and I came up with a useful belief to, I've had people say both to stay with my family and also to leave. I've had people who were part of accidents and injuries where their body was covered in burns, and they hold up a copy of Useful Belief coming out of the hospital saying, this is my reality. There's been so many examples. There's an example of a guy who came up to me after a conference who had 3 to 4 months to live, he said, and I just changed how he was going to spend that time. So there's just such a wide range of emotions and different things. Did that just go out, Travis?
Yeah, it did. Yeah, you're still in the dark there.
Let me.
Yep, that's all right. That's all right. So for those listening on the podcast, we've just had a blackout in where you're in Melbourne, aren't you, Chris?
I'm in Melbourne, absolutely.
Right,
so let me.
All good.
Let me. You want me to switch cameras or?
Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
Do we got people? You're not editing this at all. You're going live,
right? It does not. No, we're not doing live, so it's all good. It really doesn't matter because we're all adapting to technology as we speak. We're right in the middle of the coronavirus cyclone, and I think anyone who goes around saying, "Yeah, I've got all this Zoom technology, I've got all this technology down pat," is full of shit. So we're all failing forward faster, and I think it's been amazing how people are adapting and radically collaborating and innovating day by day.
It is. And I think my thing is that maybe I've just done too much today and it may have just come undone. Can you give me 30 seconds and I'll...
yeah, man. Yep. Go see.
What I might do is switch cameras. Hang on one second.
All good, man. All good.
Right,
resuming. All right, we're all good. We're back. and he's
We're back.
there we go, a lot closer now. So now you're on a different camera.
I'm on a different camera. So this is okay?
Perfect.
Nice.
So yeah, I guess that there is a problem with the personal development industry, the positive thinking industry, and the memes that get thrown around on the socials. And you reckon that's doing more harm than good, right?
Well, I think we have to be careful, because I think what happens so often for people is, it sets us up to feel bad, and it sets us up to have expectations of ourselves that's unrealistic. And I really, this idea of useful belief for me is a simple shift, and that of course is the title of my new book. But I literally sometimes get frustrated with our industry because you get people who come out and say, you got to transform yourself, or you got to be different. Every day it's something different. Every day you've got to, completely change who you are. And I think for a lot of people, they can't do that. And, I think there's a lot of people who, want to make change in their life, but get overwhelmed very easily. So I think to me, just having it be a simple shift, and, the same for you, Travis, that, if I set myself up some targets, set myself up some bucket lists, things I want to go do. And I take one step. To me, it's just like, once we take the one step, bang, now we've got trajectory, right? Now we've got some momentum. And then we look back and we've gone 2 steps, and now you go, whoa, well, I can do this. What's the next thing? Where I think sometimes, just to keep it simple and keep the, most people don't need to be transformed. Most people are good. Most people I think are doing all right. And it's just really, I think, being in a situation where we try to keep that simple for them.
Love it. And how does the useful belief stuff that you've unpacked over the years for people, how does that correlate to, how does it dovetail into the simple shift, your new book?
Okay, so really the useful belief and useful thinking probably have just evolved. And the new book is really like my favorite things to talk about when it comes to useful belief, my favorite things to talk about when it comes to useful thinking, my favorite things to talk about really when it comes down to making change in how we look at the world. And again, one of my things is this is the best time in the history of the world to be insert situation. If you're not going to change it or can't change it or won't change it, what's my useful belief about it? Well, if I'm single, this is the best time in the history of the world to be single. If I'm in a relationship,
well, not right. Not. I'll pick you up on that. I'm happily in a family. I'm happily in a relationship. But I think if you're single and you're in quarantine or in isolation right now, right in the middle of it, it's probably not the best. But I'm sure we can.
Obviously, people have picked me up on this, and it's interesting. I think with useful belief right now is really people looking at their situation going, okay, this is my reality. I am in isolation. Business has changed. So what's my useful belief in terms of that? Like, I'm going to learn about technology. I'm going to learn how to be better on Zoom. I'm going to learn how to be, spend time with the family, or I'm going to get fit. And, whatever it might be for different people, what's going to be your useful belief through this time. It's not going to last forever. I mean, I think we're in a situation where it's not going to last forever. And I think it is really figuring out, what do you want to get done in this time?
I love it. And it's so relevant because it really is like, we can't control a whole bunch of stuff, but we can control and we can create, not about being positive, is it? No, it's about, all right, what can I do? How can I make myself useful during these times, and what's my thinking around that?
Totally.
And I love the innovation and the adaptation and the radical collaboration, like I was saying before, that people are going through right now, right? Yeah. And like they've never had before. Like I've got people that are innovating stuff within their businesses, and doing things in their life, like gun to your head adaptation, and people are going, like I had that planned, like 1 year, 2 year, 3 years in my business plan to go more virtual, but I've done it in 7 days.
Correct. And I think we're all the same. I mean, traveling around 159 flights or whatever, and here we are now. This will be more a part of my business moving forward forever. I mean, it just will be, and that's cool. I mean, it's getting used to it, and it's I mean, there's bits of it that I miss. I miss the road, and I miss the, I love, I love a live audience. It's great,
Yeah. Yeah.
At the same time, this is getting to know these different things. I mean, I think it's, if you ever wondered what the world would be like if it stopped, we're getting a little sneak peek into that. I mean, there's no smog in Los Angeles. There's no, there's no traffic in Melbourne. It's
crazy.
How do you want to, there's always different things going on where it's sort of, it's interesting. And I think it's horrifying. And I mean, there's, a lot of sadness associated with what's going on. And I don't for one day or 1 minute, Travis, don't look at, I think the reason people have related to useful belief is I'm not teaching them to be positive. I'm not teaching that everything's perfect. I'm saying struggle is real. Struggle happens. And we have to come up with a useful belief about how we're going to deal with individual challenges. And, one of the things, I had this guy come up to me, and why he found it so refreshing, he said to me, he goes, Chris, when people tell you to be positive, they're actually putting onto you, like they're saying, you be positive, and they're putting onto you, like they're saying, you need to do this. Useful is totally different, because you're saying to people, what's the most useful thing you can do? And you're asking me to come up with it for me, right? Yeah. And that's actually a flip. Like, I mean, if someone walked up and said, come on, Travis, be positive, man, right? You're going, get stuff, man. Like, I don't have to be positive for anybody. But if I walked up to Travis, for you, what's the most useful thing for you? You got to come up with that, Travis. And
so got to be unearthed. Yeah, it's unearthed through me. It's an open-ended question. Yeah, like, gone are the days, hopefully, gone are the days where people are coming out on stage or coaches saying, you must, you should, you have to, you need to, they're comparing. It's a comparison process, that, isn't it? Or overlaying their map of the world onto you. And most people, given the space to answer, would just go, you know what? No, that's all well and good for you, mate, but not, you don't know me.
That's it. You don't know me. You haven't earned the right to talk to me about anything. And so that's a really cool shift, I think, for just people to go, I'm not putting anything out to anybody. I mean, I'm simply saying, hey, what is your, what do you want your life to look like? And I think actually this coronavirus time, I think people are going to come out the other side and will have thought about some of those things too. What is 100%. Useful? What am I going to hang on to? Or what am I not going to hang on to? What are the things that actually, as part of this, that I had a realization that, and even if we say, I know some people are innovating like crazy. Some people are, as you say, gun to their head, figuring out what to do. Other people are taking it easy and they're relaxing and spending time with their family and doing things, that they may not have been doing before. So I think, there's no judgment with me. It's, useful belief. If it's driven from the heart doesn't judge. And, you always know you're judging. You always know you're not driving from the heart. You're driving from ego, or you're driving from some form of wounded child that you have going for you if you're judging other people. And whether that's anger or sadness or order or organization, but whatever. But the heart doesn't judge. You're not driving from, you're driving from the heart. When
I love that. I love that. Yeah, so cool. So cool. What's the most commonly, like right in the middle of the coronavirus, and you deal a lot with, I guess, the real estate industry and a lot of other associated industries. And what's the most common question that people have been asking you as of late in the middle of this coronavirus, around useful belief and simple shift, everything, all the stuff that you teach? What's been their most common question?
I think financial services in particular have obviously been really hit hard, and they're a big client of mine. And I think everybody right now is so focused on their situation, and I think moving into that survival mode. I think people have asked me the question about negative thinking and this idea that is negative thinking important? And the answer, for me on that is grief is important. And I think
cool.
There's nothing wrong with feeling bad about the reality that we're in. The question is, how long is it useful to dwell there, right? So
that's
bad things happen. Right? And the answer is going to be different again for everyone, because I'm not going to tell you it's 7 days or 10 days. I'm just going to say, you tell me. I mean, at some point I go, you know what, this is no longer useful for me to grieve this. And, this is no longer useful for me to feel sorry for myself. And, there are definitely, mortgage brokers that I must have done 10 mortgage broker conferences last year. Well, you can imagine. I mean, the transactions on house sales, well, mortgage brokers doing it tough. Real estate agents are doing it tough. Insurance people, doing it tough. And I think, a lot of advisors are doing it tough. And I think when that being said, what's the most useful plan for them to move forward? Useful belief. This happened for a reason. There's going to be 10 things that I'm going to come out of this thing in July that I'm going to be ready and do in my business that I didn't do before. There's going to be 10 things, that I was forced to think about that I never thought about before. There's going to be, for some people, it might be you got a 17-year-old and this is your last chance that you'll ever have to spend this type of time with that kid.
Yeah. How many kids have you got, actually?
I've got 3.
3. Yeah. How are they going? Having dad at home for this extended period of time, talking to a screen in a room of the house constantly.
I know, right? It's well, I think there's adjustment for everyone, and I think you could probably ask my wife that question. It's with the key is walks. I've worked this out. The key is definitely you're moving around a little bit. But look, it is a special time. I have to say, the other night we fired up. I just moved into this new house. I bought this house a couple months back, and it's got a pizza oven, and we fired up the pizza oven for the first time as a family. And cool. There we all were sitting there. My 19-year-old and my 16-year-old were they might have been playing a little bit of beer pong on the ping pong table, and we're laughing. And like, when do you play beer pong and make homemade pizzas? It's a bit of fun.
So good, so good. Mate, I know you're busy, so I'll wrap this up with, mate, what was, number one, like, this is a personal thing. What's your book writing process? You've done 4 books now. Do you lock yourself away? What's your book writing process? When you have an epiphany and you want to go for it, or?
I can do that. I can, useful belief, I wrote in the basis of it in 4 days. I locked myself away. And mate, you're going to laugh at this, but you met me that weekend, and so I don't know if you remember that.
I did.
So we met at the Canberra PSA conference.
That's right. I went
to the opening thing, and then I proceeded, for the most part, not to go to anything else. And I locked myself in my hotel room for a period of 4 days. And I had the idea of useful belief in my head. And it's interesting. Like, I literally started, it was about a guy going to a cafe. It was because this is a fable. And it ends up being a guy who goes from Melbourne to Barcelona on a trip. But initially it was a guy going to a cafe, and he was going to meet these people, throughout Melbourne. Ended up being that he went to the airport. Next thing I know, the next piece of it's in Singapore, and then the next piece is in Barcelona. But by the end of the 4 days, I basically had the foundation for that book.
So cool. So I do remember that,
now,
mate.
Actually, the most recent one, Simple Shift, actually did drag out a lot more. I mean, it was more a collection of my favorite things to talk about and my favorite ideas. So that was a different process. So I don't even know if there's, it was a series of bursts in a lot of ways. So
unreal. Always interested to know, by being speakers, sometimes it's not a natural thing to do. Always good at looking at how other people are doing, all for my own reasons. Mate.
That's good. And I'm always good to a deadline too, mate. I'm, I've never been, I'm somebody that works out. I got an article due at 5:00 today, and that's hasn't really been started yet. So
I'll hurry this up then, mate.
No, I don't mean like that. I'll smash it out. It's all good.
Hey, look, a question that I ask all my guests is, imagine a stadium full of people, and you've already had this, I think, a stadium full of people, and you've got a raised stage at the front and a big booming microphone. what would you like to say to that? And who would you like to have in the audience by choice?
You know, I would have a collection of, you know, I mean, some speakers are really probably focus on C-suite or focus on, you know, different types. I think for me, I'd like to have real people in the audience that do a wide range of jobs. And I would like to stand in front of them and tell them to not pay attention to all the information that we get inundated with.
Oh,
and just
love it. Love it. Yeah.
And, every day we get hit with how we're supposed to look, how we're supposed to be, how we're supposed to act, how we're competing against airbrushing, what we're supposed to eat every day. And, and it's, I mean, seriously, I joke about it, but I remember we had the protein diets and we were just eating meat, right? That was it. No, just eat caveman. Why? They lived to be 32, right? And then everyone was on juice diets, and then, it's 5-2 diet, and it just goes round and round. And, I mean, I always joke that we haven't figured out the egg yet, right? I mean, is it good for you? Is it not? Nobody can tell you. It's, too many eggs, lots of eggs, take the yellow out of the egg. What's the deal?
Yeah.
But my point is, I think we spend so much time listening to all this noise. And I think really to just identify what is important to pay attention to, what's useful and what's not.
Yeah, perfect.
What gets down?
Yeah, look, and in a tip, how do you shut off the noise? How do you shut off the distractions? How do you shut off? Because we're all, comparing our behind the scenes footage with someone else's highlights reel, that famous quote by someone, and how do you personally shut down and focus?
Well, I don't think I do that well. I think it's something I'm constantly, trying to get better at. And, I've really been conscious of it, I think, in these COVID-19 times, because, you can just go down the rabbit hole. And the next thing you know, you're just, overwhelmed with what's happening. And so, I think it's one of the things that I really am going to come out of this thing and do much better at. And, it's actually, in some ways, it's easier, to do when you're busy and you're traveling. Because, I think one thing I'm good at, I've always been really good at cutting through and deciding, clients that, are income producing, or clients that are, charities, or clients that are, not actually worth spending time. I've always been really good at mastering my time and making sure that I'm definitive, to maximize the time that I've got to run a business and travel the way I do. But I think this last few weeks has really shown me again that, where you put your brain energy, what you notice, what you see, what you look at determines a great deal about what you think about.
100%. That is definitely useful, buddy. And lastly, how can people connect with you? What's the best way?
Best way, dial up the website at chriselder.com, and they can join me on Instagram, join me LinkedIn, all good.
Yeah, fantastic. We'll put all the links to the books in the show notes too, guys. And so, Chris, once again, mate, thanks a lot for being on a guest on the Bucket List Live podcast, buddy.
Thanks so much for having me, Trey. I appreciate it, buddy.
See you, mate.